Hello viewers, welcome to Word Brief and Newspaper Review. My name is Wanyoma Chibweze Ubunaya. Kingsley Chibike, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you, Wanyoma.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing too?
I'm fine, thank you. And many thanks to our wonderful viewers for always being there. We're back with a fresh edition of Word Brief and Newspaper Review to keep us abreast of what is going on around the world and in our country, Nigeria. Beginning, US President Donald Trump has accused Iran of doing a very poor job in its handling of oil passing through the pivotal Strait of Hormuz, arguing it was not the agreement they have. The comments reflect the fragile nature of the ceasefire agreement, with reports showing conflicts on what was included in the accord. It came as the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said his government was to begin direct talks with Lebanon, focusing on the disarmament of Hezbollah, an Iran-backed militant group, and establishing peaceful relationships. Away from that, hundreds of workers, union members, and opposition supporters marched in Senegal's capital, Dakar, to protest what they say are broken government promises and a worsening cost of living, as the country is plagued by a severe debt crisis. The protest was organized by the country's main labor unions and the Front for the Defense of Democracy and the Republic, also known as FDR Opposition Coalition. In the last for Word Brief today, the Israeli military issues evacuation orders for parts of Beirut as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel will strike Hezbollah wherever necessary, despite the US-Iran ceasefire. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian says Israeli attacks on Lebanon blatantly violate the ceasefire, where 203 people were killed yesterday. Iran's deputy foreign minister said the Strait of Hormuz will reopen if the US withdraws its aggression. Into our national dailies now. Daily Sun. Ohaneze abolishes Eze Igbo title outside Igbo land. The Nation. Mark-led ADC returns to court after threat protest. Lastly, in our national dailies, New Telegram. Borno. Scores of terrorists killed. Troops failed attacks on military formation.
All right. Thank you, Wanyoma. Let me start with the Senegal story where workers have taken to the streets to protest on worsening cost of living as the country is plagued by severe debt. Well, the situation is not just peculiar with Senegal alone. We equally know that Nigeria, we equally have our own issues here in Nigeria. But Senegal as a country, probably the same situation we find ourselves, where we have to borrow, and the monies are not being used for the purposes in which they are borrowed for. But then, Senegal has a very young president. In fact, I think he's possibly the youngest in Africa, Diomaye Faye. He became president, I think, about 2 years ago, of which our president was in attendance during his inauguration, and we will see picture. It was more like his grandson.
Great grandson.
More like his grandson, So it's not easy running. I must say, running the affairs of a country, especially when you inherit a country that has a faulty foundation. But then, one thing I've known the government of Senegal for is they understand what governance is. We have a lot of Nigerians in Senegal, and if you hear the reports about the standard of living in Senegal, you understand the fact that they are doing better in terms of standard of living. But then there is that which is expected of them by the citizens. And if the citizens of that country don't see what the standard, don't see what they expect, definitely a protest will definitely erupt. And it's not like Nigeria where you go on a protest, the government uses police to disperse you. They either use tear gas or water cannons to try to disperse you from, expressing your civic rights. But over there, the rights of the people are respected. And I've seen videos where their parliament, the Senegalese parliament, they are up and doing in terms of laws and bills that will impact positively into the economy. So whatever it is, I think the president of Senegal is a young man in his early 40s. I believe he has the capacity to, take the country out from where they are and probably give them a better life. Though it's not going to be easy, but I know it's one step at a time. So, and then the Senegalese people have the right to protest over whatever they want, both in terms of economic policies, welfare packages for workers in the states, and every other thing. And it's behoves on the government to look into what they are protesting against and then, work towards it to ensure that lives and welfare are properly taken care of. And then let me talk about the Israel Hezbollah issue. In as much as the Iran-America ceasefire, is currently ongoing, Israel Hezbollah or Israel Lebanon was not part of the deal. Hezbollah is embedded in Lebanon, and Hezbollah is backed by Iran, and Hezbollah is targeting Israel. So because Iran and America are trying to come together to agree on something, doesn't mean that Israel will let their defenses down and find themselves wiped out because of trying to honor another person's agreement. The agreement is between America and Iran. It doesn't have any business to do with Israel. Israel will keep fighting their fight. The only people Israel have a business with is Lebanon, which is a country. Hezbollah is an Islamic terrorist group sponsored by Iran. So Israel has problem with Hezbollah, not Lebanon. And Hezbollah is resident in Lebanon, precisely in Beirut. Beirut happens to be the capital of Lebanon. And that is where you find Hezbollah fighters. Just like we have Hamas in Gaza. That's how you have Hezbollah in Lebanon. And Israel will protect themselves with unnecessary force. The only thing Israel can do, like the Prime Minister Netanyahu has come out to say, that they will have a meeting with Lebanon, because they will also need the assistance of Lebanon to be able to, conquer these guys. Because somebody cannot be in your country, taking charge over a particular region and launching attacks on us from that region and will not respond in kind. So that's the thing. So Israel needs to sit with Lebanon, have a conversation on how Lebanon can assist Israel to tackle the Hezbollah terrorists. But until that happens, America-Iran agreement is American-Iran agreement. Israeli-Hezbollah conflict is Israeli-Hezbollah conflict.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. Sensi Daniel joined us virtually from Lagos. Sensi Daniel, you're welcome to the show.
Yeah, President Trump is upset that the Iranian regime has closed up the Strait of Hormuz again, doing a partial allowance of certain ships, basically vessels that are flagged by China and some of their allies. They are the ones that have a different passage. There's a new passage they use, apart from the Strait of Hormuz, so that especially China is not affected. But the closure of the Strait of Hormuz is not what Trump expects as they head into talks this weekend. Because of that, a lot of issues, are coming up. On the side of the regime in Iran is saying that Israel is continuing to attack Lebanon, and in doing that, they have actually broken the agreement. But let's be straightforward here. Israel has not been was never part of the agreement. And something interesting happened yesterday. The defense minister of Pakistan, don't forget that Pakistan is the mediator here. The defense minister of Pakistan accused Israel of being a bloodthirsty regime. In fact, according to that statement he posted on his official handle on X, that the European Jews who were imported into Palestine, he called it Palestine, and of course you understand the Palestinian narrative, imported into Palestine, is causing so much harm and all that. Yeah. Now, if you are a nation that is actually mediating, and your defense minister, somebody holding that sensitive position in your country, is accusing a particular party, of basically demonizing a particular party, who is not even directly part of an agreement, do you actually intend to make peace? And there's also this accusation that Pakistan handed Washington one agreement different from the one handed to Iran. It's more like in those days when there was this slave trade, or the advent of the colonial masters in Africa, when they came in and then they required those who, middlemen, who are interpreters between them and the locals, and then they will say one thing and the locals will say a different thing. That's what basically Pakistan did. All of this, so telling Pakistan that, telling the Iranian regime that Lebanon is part of the deal and Israel is not aware, and the US is not aware that, it's not in the agreement that they have, is actually telling. It means that these guys don't actually want to make peace. Pakistan, as far as I'm concerned, is not qualified to be a mediator, because basically for religious purposes, for religious ties, they certainly will side with Iran, with the Iranian regime, as it were. So basically, the talks have collapsed. That's the truth of the matter. And we hope that when they come to the table at the weekend, perhaps there may be an agreement, but I doubt. I very much doubt, because the Iranian regime is also building up their military hardware, with supplies from China that arrived a couple of days back. The US military is also building up strategically, within the Gulf, at the very gates of Iran. And what it simply means is that we don't have an end in sight yet to all of this crisis. What is happening in Senegal is reminiscent of African leadership. You always have this crisis, workers having to demand, workers having to protest, workers having to always bear the brunt of the ineffectiveness of leadership, from the top. The teachers are on strike, the health workers, the transport union. That's what is happening in Senegal. And they had already, an agreement with government. And according to them, this agreement has been, broken. They haven't kept their part. Hence the protest. On April 8th, there was protest. The protests have been called off for now. There are talks ongoing. Hopefully, there will be an understanding, between the labor union and the government of Faye. So I do not expect that Senegal will allow this to descend into chaos, as it were. Let them be able to manage it. The resources to take care of your people are there. It is the will to do it that is usually absent, for reasons best known to most of these African leaders especially. Yeah, the Israeli campaign continues in Lebanon. And don't forget, before the war, Hezbollah operations in Lebanon has been a subject of attack from Israel. As far as Israel is concerned, wherever Hezbollah operates from, regardless of the location, regardless of the country, wherever Hezbollah, Hamas is operating from, they will strike. They've made that clear. They've always done that, even before the war started. This is not a surprise. Anybody who is surprised that Israel is carrying out massive military campaign against Hezbollah, deep inside the territories of Lebanon. I mean, if you're surprised, I am surprised at you. This is a normal thing. It has been there before. It has been there before the war started. It will continue. As far as Israel is concerned, these people are an existential threat to them. Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis, So basically, and these are the frontiers for the Iranian regime. They are their proxies, And you cannot come to the table and demand that Israel should no longer attack Hezbollah. That's not going to happen. And they've given their warnings. They always do that. They did that in the last attack that claimed over 180 lives, and when they did, it actually helped in salvaging lives, not much loss. In fact, the Prime Minister of Lebanon was saying that they want to talk to Israel directly. They don't want Iran to talk on their behalf. Basically the posturing of the Lebanese government is, look, we want to talk to Israel, and that Israel hasn't done anything wrong. That if they were targeting Shiites, that the casualty would have been heavy. The fact that they let people know this is where we intend to take action, leave the territory, civilians, leave these places. We want to target our enemies within this territory, that it is commendable. That's what the Lebanese Prime Minister is saying. Said the other day. And it is interesting. It is interesting. So you cannot cry more than the bereaved, as Iran has been doing over Lebanon, just because of Hezbollah. The strike will continue. I don't see Israel stopping anytime. They will continue the campaign regardless of what is happening in Israel. The trial of Netanyahu, he has a case in court. His trial will regardless, Netanyahu is not relenting. The campaign continues.
Thank you, CSD Daniel, and this is where we'll be calling it a wrap on today's show. Do remember to drop your comments on the comment section, and still do well to join us tomorrow. My name is Wanyoma Chibweze Ogbonnaya. Kingsley Chibike, thank you for being part of the show.
Thank you, Wanyoma.